Today, we meet the star of the show, the single-board computer inside the Hero Junior. It's a remarkably well-designed machine with only one flaw, but we'll get to that. First, a tour. The CPU board is one of only 4 circuit boards in the entire robot. This was a huge improvement over the Hero 1, which had circuit boards everywhere. The Junior's simplified design helped, but I also think Heathkit's skill at design and layout of PCBs had improved as well. The board measures 20 centimeters by 20 centimeters, or 8 inches by 8 inches, and contains the microprocessor, RAM, ROM, input-output circuitry, a real-time clock, the voice synthesizer and its audio amplifier, and provisions for a ROM expansion cartridge. Let's start with the microprocessor. The Hero Junior is powered by the Motorola 6808 MPU, or microprocessor unit. This was part of the second generation of the original 6800 from 1974. Motorola had made a new chip called the 6802 with a small amount of internal RAM and ROM, but when early chips off the production line had faulty memory, they relabeled them as 6808s and sold them for applications where traditional external memory would be used. The 6800 line was modestly successful, but completely eclipsed by its cost-reduced younger cousin, the legendary MOS 6502. The MPU has an 8-bit data bus and a 16-bit address bus. It runs on a 1 MHz clock, and Hero circuitry is designed to reduce power consumption whenever possible. With a 16-bit address bus, the machine can access 64 kilobytes of total memory. Let's take a look at the physical IC sockets on the board and how they relate to the Hero's memory map. First up in address space order are the 3 RAM sockets in the upper right of the board. Each socket can accept either a 2K or 8K static RAM IC. Each chip can also be powered either during normal operation or also during sleep mode. A set of 3 jumpers for each socket provide both the chip size and powering options. Right now, this machine has a single 2K RAM chip, powered during normal and sleep modes. This is the configuration I used for the Hello World demo from the last video. Later in this video, we'll add an additional 8K of RAM, making 10K total. This was a common configuration as an additional 8K chip came with the cartridge port option. These 3 RAM sockets, U203, 204, and 205, occupy the initial 3 banks of the memory map. Next in memory order is the cartridge ROM socket at the bottom center of the board. On an unexpanded Hero Junior, this would be an unoccupied socket. The single blue jumper is used to select between a 4K and an 8K RAM chip, set here for 8K. This machine has the cartridge port option, so an IC socket cable leads to the edge card connector. The cartridge ROM is the next bank of the memory map, from 6000 to 7FFF. The final 32K of the memory space is occupied by 2 ROM chips, U207 from 8000 to BFFF, and U208 from C000 to FFFF. These 2 ICs contain Hero Junior's entire 32K operating system. That leaves just one thing missing. So far, we haven't come across any I/O device addresses. That's because there's a 2K section of ROM that is overlaid with memory-mapped input-output. Any address in this location returns input-output circuitry information, not the underlying ROM. Essentially, there's 2K of ROM that can't be accessed. The Hero Junior's memory decoding circuitry sets aside the memory addresses from D800 to DFFF for I/O devices, but the robot doesn't use the entire range. There might be some room for future expansion. What is used is U213, the real-time clock, from D810 to D81F. U214, peripheral interface adapter number 1, from D820 to D834. PIA number 1 handles the keypad scanning matrix and input from the radio remote control, as well as the drive and steering commands to the drive wheel. U215, PIA number 2, from D840 to D854. PIA 2 controls the LED display, which shares input lines with the Votrex voice synthesizer, and a variety of miscellaneous items, like the sleep and charge signals, and the A to D converter for various sensors. and U216, the RS-232 interface, from D880 to DFFF. And that, essentially, is that. A wonderfully designed and very compact 1980s single-board computer that just happens to be the brains of a mobile robot. So now that we know our way around, let's get to work and do some restoration. And let's start with a thorough cleaning. Most Hero Jr. robots were sold in kit form, meaning that the original owner of this robot soldered this CPU board by hand. This one seems to have fairly well done connections, but the one thing home builders tend to overlook is cleaning the board when they're done. Solder flows as well as it does because of rosin flux, a natural substance derived from pine sap, which reduces oxidation in metal surfaces, allowing solder to flow and bond. But when the soldering is done, the flux remains. It's that dark yellow residue around the solder connections, and when you begin to clean it with 90% denatured alcohol, you realize that there's a lot more of it than you might think. About 30 cotton swabs in, you switch to the electric toothbrush, which speeds the process, and a vertical spray wash of more alcohol helps to flush away the remaining residue. As flux can be corrosive in the long term, this is time well spent. It also lets us see the solder connections and search for any that need a reflow. With the board clean and well soldered, let's look at expanding the random access memory of the computer. As we saw before, there are 3 slots for static RAM ICs, and each of them can take either a 2K or 8K static RAM chip. Currently, we have a single 2K chip in location U203. We'd like to add an additional 8K chip to make 10K of memory total, but we can't just put it in the next location, U204. Instead, we need to move the 2K chip from U203 to U204 and add the 8K chip at U203. That way we'll have a continuous block of RAM from 0000 to 2800. First, let's physically move the chips. I use this trusty pry bar to gently work the chips free, being careful not to bend the legs as I go. I'm not a fan of the traditional chip puller, as I always seem to apply too much force and things go crazy when the chip finally releases. Once the chip is out, we move it to the new location, being careful to feel that all the IC legs are engaged before giving it the final push into place. And now the 8K chip. With its legs aligned, it goes into the newly vacated first socket with the same careful push. There we go, 10K of RAM total, but we need to configure the jumpers for it to work correctly. Because of the way these single sockets can accommodate either a 24-pin 2K IC or a 28-pin 8K IC, there is some clever circuit design with these 3 jumpers at the top of each location to get signals and power where they need to be. Here's a schematic diagram of one of the RAM sockets and its 3 jumpers. The socket shows the pin numbers for an 8K 28-pin chip. The dashed line shows the outline of a 2K 24-pin chip. The chips are aligned at their bottom edges because their pin layouts have been designed to share as many pins as possible. All the shared pins coincide except for pins 23 and 26. In addition, pin 28 on the 8K chip has an option to receive power from the normal power system or also during sleep mode. The 3 jumpers allow for all these possibilities. The 6-pin A through F jumper sets the normal or sleep power for both pins 28 and 26. 5-volt power to pin 26 works either as the chip select signal for an 8K chip or as actual supply voltage for a 2K chip. The lower C through A jumper decides if pin 23 is address line 11 for the 8K chip or the write enable signal for the 2K chip. Told you it was clever. We'll be configuring both chips to retain power when the robot is in sleep mode. So for the 2K chip, our jumpers will look like this. And for the 8K chip, we have adding a 3rd jumper to the 2 already there. And there we have it. We did these settings with the main power to the robot off, so I'll spare you the power on sequence and jump right to
10,240 bytes of memory.
Nice. That will give us plenty of RAM to work with next time, when we begin to write more complicated machine language programs for the Hero Junior. While we're in here, we might as well update the robot's ROM. Recall that the ROM is located at U207 and U208 and contains the Hero Junior's 32K operating system. The current ROM actually works perfectly well with just one minor issue.
It's Wednesday, February 10, 1926.
This is the classic year 2000 bug. The CPU board's real-time clock only provides 2 digits for the year, so the 19 and 1926 is hard-coded into the ROM. Luckily, the good folks at robotworkshop.com have created a new set of ROM chips that fix the problem. Let's swap in a set of bright and shiny version 1.6 ROM chips to fix our Y2K bug. And again, skipping all the power-on self-test shenanigans, we now have...
It's Wednesday, February 10, 2026.
Excellent. We're on a roll. Now let's give the volume and pitch controls for the robot's voice a quick cleaning with some Deoxit contact cleaner. Just a small spray in each pot and work the control a bit to clean things out. Now that we've moved these controls around, let's readjust them. First, I'll set the volume to its lowest full counterclockwise position. You can definitely just adjust these controls by ear, and they're positioned in such a way that you can do this with the head in place, by passing a thin screwdriver through, or in my case under, the plastic cover. But I like to be a little more precise. I like to set the voice pitch by measuring the frequency being delivered to the Votrax SC01 chip as I do so. I have a frequency counter connected to the ground pin and the center wiper of the pitch control. My preference is for a voice around 650 Hz base frequency. Your mileage may vary.
Ready.
And that's almost it. We have a cleaned and expanded CPU board with 10K of RAM and a new Y2K compliant ROM, and we've adjusted the voice to a standardized pitch. This board has just one more nagging issue that we need to fix before we can start to program it in earnest. Its RS-232 port does not work. Our first step is to set the baud rate jumpers on the bottom left of the CPU board. We'll move the tie block to the 9600 position, full speed. But that's not our actual problem. The RS-232 port is driven by U216, a Motorola 6850 Asynchronous Communications Interface Adapter, or ACIA. Because the RS-232 standard requires voltage levels higher than the 5 volts used by the CPU board, the Hero Junior includes a special circuit on the power and sense board to generate negative 10 volts. And because this voltage needs to be stable for the communications chip to function, the negative 10 volts can't be derived directly from the 12-volt battery, which can actually range from 13 volts down to 10 volts as the battery drains. Instead, the negative 10 volts is produced from the regulated 5 volts via a circuit known as a charge pump. An oscillating square wave is used to alternately charge 2 different capacitors to 5 volts each, one referenced positive to ground and the other negative. On the output side of the circuit, these 2 voltages are combined to create a negative 10 volt signal. The heart of the circuit are 2 capacitors, C312 and C313, and 2 diodes, D302 and D303. The capacitors seem to be somewhat underspecified for the amount of work they do, and when they fail, they can take the diodes with them. A faulty negative 10 volt power supply is not an uncommon occurrence with Hero Juniors. Replacing all 4 components fixes the problem and gets us a functioning RS-232 interface. I'll go into detail about how we test the RS-232 interface in the next video, but for now that's it. We've completed our tour of the Hero Junior CPU board. Oh, but wait, I promised to tell you the one flaw in the CPU board's design. As well laid out as it is, it has no expansion port. It's not possible to add additional peripheral devices like sensors or secondary storage. Seems like the kind of thing that might need correction in a future video. Next week, we'll dig into more machine language programming, getting to know the robot's built-in machine language monitor, and learn how to use it to write programs using ROM routines and new routines of our own. Until then...
Why are roboticists never lonely? Because they can always make new friends.
Join us next time as we continue our restoration of everyone's favorite 80s robot. And And if you like this video, don't forget to
like, subscribe, and ring the bell.